I woke up this morning with some breathing difficulties and a restless night, and I noticed there's tons of chemicals dumped in the sky. And this used to happen to me in Florida, which is one of the reasons I moved away. Thought I could escape. But whatever it is they're dumping, if the two and two go together, my breathing problems and this intense dumping of chemicals, these big fat lines right here you see are dumped chemicals. Here's dumped chemicals that are blowing in the breeze. You can see the core straight line, the straight line there. Here it's blowing in the breeze. So intense dumping of chemicals and weather coming through, so the chemicals are getting into the clouds, the water, and I can't breathe very well. And my heart rate is up. So are the two connected? I say from my experience, yes, and this is not the first time this has happened to me. Nor other people. My friend Tim from Santa Fe said when they spray a lot there in New Mexico, the hospital is inundated with people with respiratory problems. Look into that on the internet. Search these facts for yourself. But here in the mountains, I'm having trouble breathing. And the spraying this morning is greater than it's been in a while. So what are they dumping? Is there an attack on humanity? What about animals, bees, birds, plants? Rick Miracle reporting. 4th, 2018, Monday, about 7 p.m. I walked outside and said, "Oh my! What are they doing?" Obviously, they're dumping chemicals in the sky. Everything here is not a cloud. What are they dumping and why? Can't be good for we the people, I keep reporting. What do you think? Are you thinking? Do you care? Should whoever they are be dumping these chemicals in our sky? I think not. Rick Miracle from the mountains of North Carolina. Beautiful landscape. Horrible looking sky. June 4th, about 8:15 on this Monday, 2015. Excuse me, 2018. Maybe the stuff they're dumping in the sky affects our thinking. Unbelievable. All of this is dumped chemicals. Unbelievable. And if you look at the horizon towards the north, east, line after line, after line after line. This is east. So what the heck are they dumping and why? electromagnetic radiation straight above there. I can see the ripples in the dumped chemicals, heavy metals. Unbelievable! It gives you a really good visual of what's in the air with the ripples everywhere. And you can see the plane streaking back and forth, dumping the chemicals. I don't know if this camera shows it really well, but I can see them. The residue of the lines, the previous dumps, you can see clearly. What are they dumping and why? It's obviously not water vapor, it's all stringy. And it's embedded in the material. As you can see, this crisscross line right here. And if you've ever flown in a plane, you know you fly above the weather, any kind of coverage. You don't fly in the midst of it. But this is chemical dumping, geoengineering. Weaponized chemicals against the population of people, including birds, bees, trees, worms, fish. This year's crops, cows, pigs. Why and what? Rick Miracle reporting. June 7th, 2018, Thursday. About 10 minutes after 10 on this warm, seemingly like summer morning. But I look up in the sky and I can clearly see the dumping of chemicals in our sky here in the mountains of North Carolina. None of what you see is clouds. Should be pretty blue, but it's pasty white in many places. So what are they dumping and why? You'd think people would be in an uproar. Don't be putting chemicals in my air. Rick Miracle reporting. June 10th. Sunday, about 3:40 in the afternoon. I just watched a jet go by, spraying chemicals. And here's another one right behind it. Kind of making a weird turn. So the $1 million question is, what are they dumping? And why? Why do they come one right behind the other? And if you look at the sky here, you can see clouds. But beyond that, it's like powder. Something dumped in the sky. Not the pretty blue. You should see, like over here, the blue. You see this pasty white stuff. Chemicals. It's obvious they're dumping. You can see the different streams. Contrails or condensation doesn't spread out like that. Modern jet engines don't do that. This is intentional dumping. This thin line will turn into that thick line, which will turn into this white powder. Chemicals dumped in the sky, obviously permeating these clouds. Here comes another one. Like I said, right one after another. Right to the center of this video. Came right from behind this puffy white cloud. So what are they dumping? Who is behind this? You know, it's got to cost a lot of money to paint the sky white, pasty white. Looks like this guy's making another turn. Almost in the center of this video. And he's making a turn. So what are they doing? Streaking back and forth, dumping these chemicals? Why? There's another one right here between that space between the two clouds. I can see a faint line. Somebody's dumping chemicals right in that blue space in the center of this video. Probably the video can't pick it up. This guy's just going right here towards the center of this video. Why? What? Who's paying for this? Who's controlling this? And putting these chemicals into the clouds can't be good. Wouldn't that be polluting Mother Nature's natural rain water? Is that part of the depopulation effort? Rick Miracle reporting on this beautiful Sunday. Almost 4 o'clock, 2018, here in the mountains of North Carolina. Dumping chemicals on us. Rick Miracle video in the sky so that you can see what I can see. June 11th, Monday, 2018. About 8 o'clock in the morning, here in the mountains of North Carolina. I'm waking up to an ominous day of dumping chemicals in the sky. Now you can tell this is not a cloud. Clouds are water vapor, gaseous, puffy, gas. This is stringy. Chemicals, dust blowing in the breeze, coming from straight lines like that and like that. What's really crazy is the whole sky is painted pasty white, which should be normal, pretty blue if there wasn't a cloud. All what you see is these chemicals dumped intentionally, as you can see with the straight lines. Over here I see some clouds to the north. So it apparently could be some kind of weather control. I do know that obviously the chemicals, there's a plane spraying as I watch right above the tree line. Dumping of these chemicals have to get into the clouds. So when it does rain, if it rains, and it did rain a little bit last night, in that rain would be these chemicals here in the mountains of North Carolina. Wow, you can see some serious spray lines right here. So what are they dumping and why? It cannot be good for we the people. There's an old saying, don't mess with Mother Nature. This is definitely messing with Mother Nature. Geoengineering, an attack on humanity. Like I keep saying, this can't be good. You can see the straight lines, one after the other. And it turns into this white, powdery stuff blowing in the breeze. Anyways, on this Monday morning here in the mountains of North Carolina, we're being sprayed like we're bugs. I don't think we're bugs. Are you a bug? Rick Miracle video in the sky so that you can see what I can see. June 11th, about 8:30 on this Monday morning, 2018. Went outside on the front patio and said, oh my. The powers that be are being busy. I wonder what it cost to dump all these chemicals in the sky. Here comes some weather. I look just watching it on TV, the Weather Channel. Apparently there's going to be some clouds coming in the area with thunderstorms and rain this afternoon. But as you can see, there'll be plenty of chemicals in the sky. It has to have an effect. The least of the effect is these chemicals would get into the clouds and come down with the rain. I do notice sometimes that when there should be thundering and lightning, there isn't. And these chemicals are supposed to be heavy metals. So I just wonder if they're short-circuiting the lightning. And lightning apparently energizes the ground for things that grow. In other words, they're messing with Mother Nature. The way that the world has been operating for thousands of years seem to have worked. But now, with this geoengineering, dumping of chemicals and putting up microwave towers about every mile apart, which something interesting came to my mind this morning watching a video. But apparently they're microchipping people, and one of the things with the chip they put in people is the lithium battery will eventually run out of energy. The battery will die. So what they're doing, it seems to me, is in these chips they put in people, they have a little coil with a diode, so that when you pass through a microwave energy, the coil, like a radio antenna, picks up the energy and charges the lithium battery in people's bodies without them even knowing it. So the whole world will be permeated with weaponized microwaves, so that animals and cars and people and everything else, smart meters, smart devices, smartphones, will be charged because of all the surrounding microwave fields, radiations. So something is occurring in our world, and the dumping of chemicals can't be good and is a part of it. The cell phone towers being placed every mile apart is a part of it. And apparently they're supposed to be eliminating internet neutrality today, June 11, 2018, which will be interesting to see the results of that. Maybe there'll be more censoring. Maybe there'll be more opposition to this global order being created, and they'll have to monitor and censor people. And apparently these microchips they're putting in people can also cause a person to have a seizure or a heart attack and die by emanating certain frequencies into the body. Just me thinking aloud while I look up and see all these chemicals dumped in the sky. And watching videos and doing research and paying attention to the news. Rick Miracle reporting. What do you think? Are you thinking? June 14th. About 8 o'clock on this Thursday morning, 2018. I went outside and said, oh my, what are they doing today? spraying us like we're bugs. Looks like a good portion of the sky here is painted pasty white, along with some fog and some storm clouds from yesterday off to the north. But there's no doubt about this. The chemicals are raining on us. You can actually see them dropping from the sprayed line. See the sharp edge? Line after line after line after line. What are they doing? Can't be good for we the people, I keep saying. They're turning what should be a pretty blue sky into a pasty white sky, blocking the sun. Unbelievable. Rick Miracle reporting. Video in the sky so that you can see what I can see. June 14th, about 9:15 on this Thursday morning, 2018. So this little puff right here is a cloud, water vapor. You can tell by the edges. It's a gas. It's a cloud. Over here, it's stringy. Dumped chemicals from planes, intentional. You can see over here, it's clearly enough. So why would they be dumping all these chemicals on top of these clouds? Doesn't take a genius to think that whatever they're dumping is going to get into the clouds. Seed the clouds, so to speak. Chemicals, toxins, weather control, an attack on humanity? We don't know because they don't tell us. Rick Miracle reporting from the mountains of North Carolina. 15th, about 6 p.m. An interesting Friday, 2018. Lines of chemicals crisscrossing the sky that anybody can see. And that's not clouds, that's sprayed lines that are blowing in the breeze. So is this stuff. And you can tell it's not gaseous, it doesn't look like a cloud. Here's the plane spraying as I watch. So they've been streaking by for the last half hour, so I thought I would do a video. Here's some clouds off towards the north. So what do you think? Controlling the weather? Putting toxins in the environment? Why would they be dumping chemicals in the sky? Messing with Mother Nature can't be a good thing. And look at this jet just turned off the nozzle. And there he is right there. If you can see it in this video. So they're streaking across the sky, making little dumps of chemicals like this one. Non-continuous. If that was just June 15th, darn camera shuts itself off. About 6:15. And dual tracks through the sky, terminating about the same place. More lines. Here's one over here. And it appears that all this stuff you see is dispersed sprayed chemicals. There's one here. Lots of them off towards the south. And clouds off towards the north. Here in the mountains of North Carolina, Rick Miracle reporting. June 18th, 2018. Rick Miracle video in the sky so that you can see what I can see. And today off towards the north, I'm in the mountains of North Carolina. I can see chemicals dumped in the sky. None of that appears to be clouds. So let me pan around. There's some residue in the sky there. It doesn't look like there's any visible lines off towards the southwest or the southeast from this direction. So they are spraying over towards the north and the northeast, and I suspect it's blowing this way, making the sky a kind of a pasty white. Eventually, the whole sky will be filled with these chemicals, which means the air we breathe will be full of these chemicals they're dumping. And way off towards the north, I can see a cloud coming in. So it appears they're spraying, maybe affecting the weather control. For better or worse, that is the question. What are they doing in your sky? Rick Mariko reporting. Beautiful June day. But they're dumping chemicals in our sky. Why? June 18th, Monday, 2018, about 12:30 on this beautiful day in the mountains of North Carolina. Beautiful clouds that we can see. And above the clouds, as we can clearly see, sprayed chemicals. There's a plane spraying as we watch. Anyways, you can see the residue of previously sprayed chemicals in the sky. So what are they dumping above the clouds in the sky? It's an old saying, don't mess with Mother Nature, and they are surely messing with Mother Nature. And I think it's a malevolent, sinister program. That's my opinion. What do you think? Rick Mariko reporting. June 20th, about 9 o'clock on this Wednesday morning, 2018. I woke up this morning, walked outside, and said, oh my. What are they doing? Lawnmower came by, had to pause. So you can see these short squirts this morning of chemicals dumped in the sky. Pretty clear. Right above the tree line. And apparently off in the horizon here towards the southeast, between the trees, I can see tons of stuff being dumped. In the northeast, no mistaking it, short squirts. What are they dumping and why? How can it be good for we the people? And why the short squirts today versus the long spray lines sometimes? Jet engines wouldn't be naturally shutting off and on, would they? Intentional dumping of chemicals, measured amounts, short squirts. Rick Mariko reporting. June 20th, about 10:30, 2018. The dumping of chemicals continues. On this Wednesday morning, you can see this long streak here, and that the chemicals are blowing in the breeze. This is coming from the top down. And it's non-continuous, as you can see here. Here's another line. So why? Here's one that's really spread apart. Looks like a feather. Not a cloud. So they're spraying us like we're bugs. Look at the top of this tree line here. A long spray. No mistaking it. So they're dumping chemicals on top of these clouds that are coming through. So what do you think? Would you throw some mud in your coffee? No, you wouldn't. Then why would you put the chemicals on top of the clouds? The clouds are our coffee. It's water. Gets in the water system, in the wells. And they're dumping chemicals into our water. And I'm sure it affects the trees and the bees and the birds and the squirrels and everything else. The fish. Mother Nature is being attacked. We, the humans, are being attacked. By whom? Why? Rick Miracle reporting. June 25th, Monday, 2018. About 8:30 in the morning. Looking outside, I can clearly see evidence of dumping chemicals in the sky by the powers that be. We had some good rain yesterday, and it looks like they might have some more thunderstorms this afternoon, but in the meantime they're dumping chemicals in the sky, which I believe can't be good for we the people, or the plants, or the animals. What do you think? Are you thinking? Rick Miracle reporting. June 29th, Friday, 2018, about 10:30 in the morning. Looking off towards the north, in the mountains of North Carolina, I see two things. I see some clouds, and then above the clouds I see spray lines of chemicals. And if I look straight up ahead here, this is chemicals. This is not a cloud. You can see they're spraying chemicals everywhere. In the sky. And somebody explain it to me, how this can be good for anything that's living. Are they spraying where you live? Not a cloud. Not a cloud. Clouds over there coming in from the west, northwest, spraying on top of the clouds coming in. So the chemicals may be biologicals. We don't know because they don't tell us. Could get into the clouds. Why are they doing it? How much does it cost? Is it detrimental to living life on planet Earth? Rick Miracle reporting. Friday, June 29th, 2018. About 6 o'clock on this Friday. And I look outside and I said, wait a minute. What's all that white powdery stuff dumped in the sky with non-continuous lines? In other words, the jet turned the valve on and turned the valve off. Anyways, that thin line will turn into a thick line like that. And enough of them turns into a white powder on top of the clouds. Now please tell me, you don't have to be a rocket scientist or a physicist or even a biologist to say somebody's messing with Mother Nature. And I just say, how can it benefit any kind of living organism. Trees, plants, squirrels, fish, humans, dogs, cats. And here's one of the jets that are doing it. He's not spraying right now. But sometimes when you're videoing them crossing the sky, there's another one right there. One after the other. I don't know if you can see it in this video. One there and one there, crossing the sky, leaving these tracks in the sky like that, turning into that, and all that other white powder dumped on top of the clouds. Chemicals into the water vapor clouds. That can't be good. Can it? Just saying. Rick Miracle reporting on this Friday, 30th, 2018. Noticing a lot of clouds in the sky, but between the clouds, I can see they're dumping chemicals. And I did a little search on the internet this morning and found some very interesting and disturbing news. But a lot of scientists are saying that the chemtrail theory has been debunked. Strange. I can video stuff in the sky falling apart. Doesn't look gaseous. It blows in the wind like strings. Here in the mountains of North Carolina. Then I found some other evidence that supports the fact that they're altering the environment. Walking around the house to see if I can see any more evidence. And you can see the stuff blowing above the clouds. And I know if people want to be in denial, they'll reject the notion that somebody's messing with Mother Nature for malevolent purposes. They are obsessed with population and creating a global world order. They are secretly microchipping children and getting ready to turn the switch on the 5G, 5 gigahertz microwave network. Here's two lines side by side. But like I said, you gotta pay attention and learn how to see these things. Humanity is being deceived. Strange things are going on. Satanic rituals are everywhere. Super Bowl halftime shows, Emmys, Grammys, tunnel openings in Switzerland. Eurovision, the American Idol program for Europe, 2014, look it up. Conchita Wurst won the contest. What does Conchita Wurst mean, and what does Conchita Wurst look like? Check on the internet. So I'm going to show a little report, both from scientists saying chemtrail theory is not real, and plenty of evidence to show that the dumping of chemicals in the sky is real. You decide. Rick Miracle reporting. June 30th, the last day of the month, 2018. Rick Miracle video in the sky, observing evidence of chemicals dumped in the sky. And these thicker, straight patterns are the results of these thin lines of chemicals dumped in the sky. And of course we can see under the chemicals clouds, and clouds, chemicals, chemicals, clouds. So one can assume that the chemicals would be getting into the clouds. Now, a lot of people are in denial. A lot of scientists are saying it's not happening. It doesn't matter what you see. Don't believe what you see. I say there are some malevolent activities going on in the world, and this is a big one. Meanwhile, Australia just signed a contract for $26 billion for some new warships, battleships, to fight the Chinese threat of having added to its fleet numerous submarines. China and Australia, of course, are near each other, battling for the Chinese Sea. 26 billion. Can you imagine the quality of life of the people in Australia if they put that money towards the population? Something strange is going on, without a doubt, in the world. With World War I, World War II, 9/11, and so much more, and something called the soft revolution going on right now. And the soft revolution is what happens before somebody fires the first shot, and you have a worldwide revolution where people kill each other. In this case, the conservative, Christian, and other decent people versus the liberal, progressive, other people, Democrats versus Republican, if you will, gays versus straights, if you will, and other propaganda out there to get people to hate each other. You just have to wonder what is behind the spirit of humanity. What evil forces are out there bringing us this looming threat to the world? I suspect it's the same forces that are dumping these chemicals and all of the other propaganda on the internet showing that scientists prove that the chemtrail theory is a big hoax. It doesn't exist. No matter what you can see with your eyes, it doesn't matter that that white stuff dumped from jets is blocking the sun. It's just water vapor. And if you believe that, I've got some swampland in South Florida I'd like to sell you. The sky is supposed to be pretty blue. You can see some of it between the clouds here and the chemicals. But when they paint it pasty white like this, it has to have an effect on Mother Nature. Trees dying, bugs, birds, bees, all the natural biological life on Earth. And apparently the powers that be, I have books, I've made videos, are concerned with the world population. They all talk about a global new world order. The only resistance is the people. So you have to create all of the hate and all of the anger to get the people to fight each other and kill each other. So I've looked at a couple documents I'm going to share in this video, and you decide what's going on. Rick Marrico reporting on the last day of June 2018 from the mountains of North Carolina.
Thank you very much. I'm Richard Jordan, chairman of the conference. I'm going to just introduce Khalid Dawood, who will introduce the speakers. So Khalid, thank you very much for moderating this session, and I turn it over to you, and I will return in about 3 minutes.
So our next speaker is Dr. Rosalind Peterson. She's the California president and co-founder of the Agriculture Defense Coalition, formed in 2006 to protect agricultural crop production from uncontrolled experimental weather modification programs. A very interesting topic, you know, for a non-specialized person like myself. But also very interesting in her CV that we have with you is also her extensive efforts to protect drinking water supplies from toxic chemical contamination in Martinez, California. That's a very interesting topic, of course, and I was actually wondering myself whether you can tackle whether the same experiments that you're holding in California could be extended to other world countries, particularly poor and developed countries like where we come from. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman. It is a pleasure to be here to speak with all of you today. One of the things that I would like to say is that we are in a global drumbeat right at the moment talking about climate change and global warming. One of the things that is affected by climate change is agriculture. But some of what we are seeing is man-made, but man-made in a different way than you may guess. Weather modification programs, experimental ones done by private companies, done by the United States government, done by states across the United States are underway. There's more than 50 of them in operation across the United States. All of these impact agriculture because they change the microclimates needed for agriculture to survive. None of these programs that I know of today, and this is all public record, are available at any time with oversight, agricultural oversight or public oversight. These programs impact agriculture, and there are programs around the world, international corporations are modifying our weather all the time, and they're modifying it in ways that cover thousands and thousands of square miles. Most of it is chemically altered, so that what happens is that we are putting chemicals, ground-based chemicals that are shot into the air, or chemicals coming from airplanes that change and modify our weather. So one of the things that I'm concerned about and that we need to address in the future is how these programs are impacting microclimates needed for our crops to survive and needed for pollination. If we change the growing season, the pollinators may not survive, and also our crops, our flowers, and our tree crops may not get the pollination needed. So one of my areas is looking at this situation to see if we can begin to put under control experimental and other types of weather modification programs. The other issue is that a lot of times we're talking about mitigation for climate change. It's rather an undefined term at this period of time. And so what happens is that many times we're talking about artificially putting chemicals like sulfur or particulates into the atmosphere in what they call geoengineering schemes to reduce and help the planet, supposedly, but help the planet to not go through such a tremendous global climate change and to mitigate global warming. However, the incidence of putting chemicals into our atmosphere is going to change and impact agricultural crop production. And if you take and you put up into our skies chemicals to reduce the amount of sunlight reaching the earth, you are going to begin to reduce crop production. Studies at the University of Illinois on corn crop production show reductions. Without the process of photosynthesis, whereby plants from direct sunlight gain the energy to grow, to produce crops, we are going to find ourselves, if we mitigate in that direction, impacting the crop production not only here in the United States, but worldwide. One of the things that is impacting crop production right now in the United States and reducing photosynthesis and also impacting the ability of solar power panels to generate the type of power that they should is persistent jet contrails. NASA talks about persistent jet contrails as exacerbating global warming because they trap warmth in the atmosphere when they produce cirrus and man-made clouds. NASA also talks about that that these aircraft leaving persistent contrails are changing our climate. And when they change our climate to the degree that one jet can leave a persistent jet contrail which will spread across our skies, from what this picture up here on my left on the screen looks like, which is a trail left by a jet. That trail can expand to 4,000 kilometers and last for 20 hours. This was unheard of in the early 60s and the 70s, and it wasn't until the late 1980s that there was a change and we started to have persistent jet contrails that persist. NASA studies show that part of our global warming problem could be attributed to these types of contrails and the jets that leave them. So one of the issues as we go through is, how do you like your skies, natural or man-made? And right now, we are making man-made clouds, and this is trapping warmth in our atmosphere. The climate change that is produced by these jets, not all jets, mostly some non-commercial, but what happens to our skies is that we start to see the changes. The man-made clouds do trap the warmth, and they increase the humidity. This allows for pests to proliferate, diseases, molds, mildews, funguses, and viruses. This is a man-made cloud, ladies and gentlemen, and these pictures I took myself over Northern California, and this is a burst. This is where a jet left a huge plume, and then this turned in at the end of it to a burst, and this is not normal. Never seen before in our county historically, and I was born and raised there. This is another picture showing the jet trail just before the burst. This is our skies, and I want you to know that what you're seeing now, a lot of times many scientists know, especially at NASA and in other areas, that the skies that we're seeing are not normal cloud formations. These are man-made. And what happens as we reduce the amount of sunlight in a form of global dimming, we reduce the solar power with these type of clouds, and we reduce photosynthesis, which is going to impact agriculture.
Ken Rolla is somebody who I've gotten the opportunity to interview on my broadcast. It's a cool thing to do a radio show because you get to have all these people on that you may have heard on other shows or you've read their articles and so on and so forth. And health is really one of my favorite topics, but he's not just a health researcher. He really has a lot more behind his information than your typical vitamin C's good, you know, whatever the typical health stuff might be, because he really understands the eugenics campaign, or maybe it's better called a population control campaign, and he truly understands, unfortunately, the evildoers, and more importantly, what to do about the scumbags. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ken Rolla from Fresh and Alive.
Yes, as Bob mentioned, I've been a naughty boy for a long time. Back in the early 90s, I worked with free energy technology and had friends hurt and killed. And so I do know very well about the agendas. I've seen them up close. I've seen things that people wouldn't believe. And so I got into natural health about 25 years ago because I needed to heal myself. And because of my background in electrical engineering and because of my interest in quantum physics and free energy and advanced technologies, I saw things in healing that other people weren't seeing. And so I have been teaching about that ever since and showing advanced methods for healing. And as it turns out nowadays, we've got a lot of things that are threatening our health that most people aren't aware of, like nuclear fallout or genetically engineered microbes, biowarfare agents, nanotechnology, geoengineering pollutants. Most of you are probably familiar with that, spraying heavy metals in the atmosphere, but also desiccated human blood cells full of genetically engineered microbes. There's no way you can justify that as weather control. It's definitely a population control agenda. And then genetically engineered organisms, GMO food. It boggles my mind at how many people are not aware of the damage that genetically engineered food causes to the body and what to do about it. There are actually ways to revert GMO DNA back to the original heirloom. And the reason is because the pattern, the genetic pattern is not in the DNA. The DNA is the carrier of the genetic pattern, but it is not the pattern. The pattern is in consciousness itself. And I'm going to be showing you guys how this stuff works and practical things that you can do to keep yourself happy and healthy and keep these biowarfare agents out of your body, neutralize radioactivity in the atmosphere, in your yard, on your garden, and in your body, how to get these nuclear particles out and neutralize them within the body. Really inexpensively, too. This is going to take every bit of 90 minutes. This is usually a 2-hour to 3-hour presentation. So I'm going to be zooming through this. And I know I don't want to miss Jordan Maxwell or Bob Tuscan or any of the other folks. So I'm going to do my best to get this done as fast as possible. And I don't expect you to be able to take notes at the rate that I'm going to be going. Therefore, I have made these slides available and other notes on my website, and I would highly recommend you write that URL down, downloads.freshandalive.com. You can download these, and you can look at them in detail, including a lot of other information there, including instructions on how to make your own supplements and medicines and heal yourself. Okay? So be sure to write that down, because I'll be showing this at the end of the presentation, this URL as well. But I obviously won't have time for questions in this format. So, back in, now first of all, I'm going to, with this kind of a crowd, the first few slides I'm going to really zoom through, because with this kind of crowd, you guys, I think most of you already know that geoengineering, spraying heavy metals in the atmosphere is a problem. I think you guys know. I see lots and lots of people stating the problem, but they don't state the solution. I like to focus on the solution. So I'm going to zoom through the problem, because I don't have to convince you guys that this is going on so much. You know, some crowds I really have to show the evidence, the patents, and all the things on geoengineering to show people that this is really going on. But it's not at all a conspiracy theory. Dr. David Keith from Harvard University is the Gordon McKay Professor of Applied Physics at Harvard. He's also the 2009 Time Magazine Hero of the Environment recipient for developing a company that sprays heavy metals into the atmosphere globally to the tune of 10 to 20 million metric tons every year. So this guy's been on the Colbert Report. He's been all over mainstream television. He's been out in the media promoting this idea that, oh my gosh, we've got global warming and climate change, and the only thing that we know how to do is spray metals up in the atmosphere to reflect the heat back from the sun and cool the planet down. It's utter nonsense. And as he states, and other geoengineers state, they got the idea for doing this from observing what happens when volcanoes, there we go, when volcanoes blow. When volcanoes blow, they shoot up a large amount of ash into the atmosphere, and it spreads out for thousands of miles, and it cools the earth. It acts as a shield, and it reflects sunlight, and it cools the earth down about 1 degree. Now, the great thing about volcanoes is they remineralize the earth. And so it's a very, very beneficial part of the ecosystem of the earth. Volcanoes going off remineralizes the earth, and not just with regular old macro minerals that we're familiar with, but also superconducting minerals that are extremely healing and regenerative to all living organisms. And we're going to be talking about those. So anyway, the good news is it's illegal to be spraying us. The 1998 National Defense Authorization Act, Public Law 10585, specifically prohibits the use of human subjects for testing of chemical and biological agents. That's the good news. The bad news is there are exceptions. And the exceptions are any peaceful purpose that's related to a medical, therapeutic, pharmaceutical, agricultural, industrial, or research activity, any purpose that's directly related to protection against toxic chemicals or biological weapons and agents, and any law enforcement purpose, including any purpose related to riot control. So basically, the government can spray us, but we can't spray ourselves. Like how that works. There's a really good YouTube video that was on the Discovery Channel or the History Channel called Declassified Human Experimentation, because very often I get the question, well, why would they be spraying us with this toxic stuff? If they're spraying it everywhere, it's affecting them. Why would they do it? I just can't believe the government would spray us. The government has a long, long history of doing a lot of really stupid, toxic things to populations. They're not the brightest people. I used to work with the North Carolina Hospital Association with lobbyists, and I can tell you, man, politicians majority of them are just brain dead. I mean, they're corrupt. A lot of them are extremely dumb, and they're in it for the power and the money. And so, no, they're not thinking. They also aren't informed. A lot of times these politicians are going on, you know, summaries that they're getting from the military or whoever, and also the military leaders that are doing this stuff. They all have agendas. They all have awareness. And, you know, I mean, if you're in an organization that essentially its motive is to kill people, you know, how aware are you going to be? So there is a long history of this, and it's not at all a conspiracy.